Welcome to everyone. Thank you ever so much for joining us. My name is Tim Gabrunji, and I'll be moderating this webinar today. That's my only role today. Most importantly, joining us today is Philip Arugaba, a personal friend, I must concede, but more importantly than that, he's a leading and prominent lawyer in Kampala and a partner with ENS in Uganda. Over the last 25 years, he's gained a lot of experience in mergers and acquisitions, in capital markets and cross-border listings and all that complicated legal stuff. He's an expert. But crucially, he has been involved in legislative changes in Uganda, including drafting laws and regulations in aspects like capital markets regulation. Philip will correct me here when he starts to speak. I believe when you go around Kampala and go to these venues and people are not smoking around in a restaurant or in a club, the reason this happened, the reason is that control is thanks to people like Philip making sure that kind of legislation was passed. But today, he has agreed to walk us through what is known as the Protection of Sovereignty Bill and through the legal terms. But a few things before we begin. First and foremost, this session is being recorded and a transcript will be produced. Beyond it being visible here live, I'm told there's another session on YouTube, which has also begun. However, because it's being recorded and by staying on this call, our understanding is you consent to that. This recording will be shared with those who could not attend live. As I told you, we are following the sun, some of us are sleeping. This webinar has been put together by the Uganda Global Forum, a registered Uganda Diaspora coordination platform, right? Second, the purpose is simple. We want to understand the bill, Philip, in its own terms. We're here to learn, not so much to debate, right? And Philip here is a legal explainer, he's here as a legal explainer, not as an advocate, right? Let's respect that and let's ask our questions. Let's keep them scoped to learning, finding out about this bill, right? So third, we ask you ever so kindly, right, to send your questions through the Q&A facility in this Zoom call. There's chat and there's Q&A. So please use Q&A to send in these questions. And of course, like I said, keep those questions topical. So the reason we're here today, like I said, is to understand this bill and its implications for non-resident Ugandans or Ugandans in the diaspora, Philip, right? That's what we're here for. So Philip, in as an unvarnished a form as you possibly can, walk us through the Protection of Sovereignty Bill. What exactly is this thing?
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tim. You've been most kind and gracious in your introduction. I thank the Uganda Global Forum for organizing this. It's amazing the reach that you've had. I've had feedback on the invite from many people, many places. So thank you very much for doing this. I would like to borrow the words of the late Shaka Sali by saying I'm profoundly honored and exceedingly humbled to be here and to be able to make this presentation today on the Protection of Sovereignty Bill 2026. It was sponsored by the Minister of Internal Affairs, Major General Retired Kahinda Otafire, and it is presented as an act to protect the sovereignty of the people of Uganda. Its stated purposes are for the registration, regulation of agents of foreigners, to provide for such registration, and to regulate funding and other assistance provided to such agents. Now, the justification for the bill is that there is no law at present that upholds the sovereignty of the country, and that this gap has permitted continuous interference in government policies, programs by foreign countries and agents of foreigners. Now, the bill is some 30 odd clauses, and we were in another forum the other day, and Dr. Robert Chirunda said that no law should ever be permitted to go so wide and so deep. So it covers a whole lot of issues, a whole spectrum of people. And in going through this, it will be like the fable of the 5 blind men and the elephant, where 5 blind men were asked to touch an elephant and to describe it. Now, each one described the part of the elephant that they touched. But for today's focus, we are going to be to narrow it down to describing how this bill affects members in the diaspora. Ugandans living in, how do we say it, in the outside countries?
Correct. Outside country.
Yes, in outside countries. Yes. So let me start with this question. When they say protection of sovereignty, who is being protected? Whose sovereignty is it, and who is protecting it, and from what? Owechitiibwa Apollo Makubia wrote a book called Protection, Patronage, or Plunder. And he asks the question, when the British declared Buganda a protectorate, who were they protecting it from and for whose benefit? We must ask the same of this bill. Sovereignty in the Constitution belongs to the people. The impact of the bill is to take this sovereignty to curtail activities that we have been engaging in ordinarily and vest them in the minister and require us to obtain permission from the minister to do things you're doing today, to participate in the governance of your country, to criticize actions by government legitimately, to send money to your kith and kin. Okay, so we must question it. We must question it. So a big issue around this bill as impacts members in the diaspora is the $2.5 billion that you send to Uganda. This is an amount that's been growing. I think you've computed it to almost $8 billion in the last 3 years. This is done over about 16 million transactions, according to the records from the Bank of Uganda, through banks and other payment agencies. So there's a lot of government interest in understanding where this money is going and what it is being used for. Now, as far as I can tell, this is a very democratic revenue stream. It isn't like income from tourism, which will benefit you if you're next to a waterfall or on a mountain or next to the gorillas. It isn't like revenue from a mineral oil, which is in Hoima, and the people around there are benefiting already. It isn't like revenue from, what else can I say? Crops which are grown in certain localities, coffee, but coffee is grown in large parts. This to my knowledge, across the country, north, east, west, people have relatives abroad in one country or the other for one reason or the other, whether it is the labor export that we see every day through the Entebbe, whether it is skilled labor, professionals, people have relatives who send the money from outside. So that's why I describe it as a democratic revenue. It cuts across the whole country. Now, the second important element to lay on the table as concerns the Ugandans in the diaspora is that the bill defines a Ugandan resident abroad as a foreigner. Okay, you are defined as a foreigner.
It actually does that?
Yes, it does that. The Constitution gives you your rights of citizenship, but this bill dares to take away your rights of a citizen and to discriminate against you on the basis of residence. Simply that you are abroad, earning your honest living, doing what you do. Okay, it now says that you are deemed a foreigner for purposes of this law. Now, from that flows certain consequences. First of all, sticking with these remittances, the valuable remittances that you send that sustain this economy, that account to 3 to 5% of its GDP. Somebody receiving money from you must register with the Ministry of Internal Affairs as an agent of a foreigner. You. Okay.
But does it depend on how much money is being sent? I mean, we said $100, we said everything. Oh, really?
Yes.
Anything?
Yes. In fact, I think 95% are less than $500. Less than $500, and a very small portion reach the $6,000 mark and so on. Yes, anything that you send. And this is where it comes from. Let's first put the outside marker. If you are sending, or if someone is receiving more than 400 million shillings, which is $104,000, they need written approval from the minister. Okay, that's the outside limit, the big money. Above 100,000, you need, I'm going to call it additional approval from the minister. But if a Ugandan bank account or payment system receives money from abroad, they are required to ask the recipient whether he is registered with the Ministry of Internal Affairs as an agent of a foreigner. Okay? And they are required not to pay out the money unless this person can show I am registered as an agent of a foreigner.
I want to interrupt you there a little bit, Philip. So are you saying non-resident Ugandans, the way it's written today, if we go to stay within the law, if it became a law, have actually got to go through a process of registering with the Ministry of Internal Affairs or whatever institution or entity in government in order for us to remit $50 for a kid school fees?
No, the obligation for registration is on the recipient of the money. Here, the kid you're sending the money to, or the school, school. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, or the school. Okay, whoever is here who has received money in a bank, in a payment system. I don't know which is the most popular, but let's keep it simple and say a bank. Bank X receives a credit of 370,000 shillings. Okay. And I'm required to go and pick it up. The bank can tell that it has come from outside countries. It may even have your name as the remitter. Okay. So it says this is a Ugandan resident abroad. He's therefore a foreigner under this law. And the bank is required to then ask for evidence of registration as an agent of a foreigner before they release the money to me.
Oh, wow.
Before they release the money to me. Now, we also have to think that according to Bank of Uganda, these are 16 million transactions.
Yeah.
Okay. As number of transactions, this is in a year. And Tim, you did mathematics. I didn't. So how many transactions is that per month? We make it 1 million point 3.
1.3. About
1.3 about there. And then that means per week makes it about
400,000.
400,000 transactions per week. And I agree, it's in different banks, it's in different payment agencies and so on. But each of these is going to first have to verify who the recipient is and do you have this authorization from the minister? Okay. And then the receiver also has to declare and say that I have received 370,000 from Timothy, who is in this country, who is related to me in this way, and this, and this is the purpose of the funds. So it is a very laborious process. It is a very intrusive process. Okay, there will be a lot of data that would have to be captured to do this. But what I'm trying to demonstrate here is that it will be an impossible exercise. It will be an impossible exercise. Now, to backstop it, there's liability for I'm going to say bank or payment service that does not capture this information, that does not require this information. And the penalty can go up to $1 million. Okay.
Oh my God.
So
okay.
Yes. So in my view, there's a lot for both the send of the money, the recipient, and the paying agent to be concerned about in this law. There's a lot
So
to be concerned about.
okay, that's interesting. I mean, but and this is what's actually written. You're saying this is in black and white, it's in the bill, these are the requirements. This is not opinion, this is fact, right?
Yes, it is. It is. Yes, it is. Did you share the gazetted copy of the bill with the membership?
We've
Okay.
shared, we've received it, but like I said, Philip, you've got people from, we are domestic workers, we are law enforcement officers, we are bankers, we are lawyers, we are doing all kinds, we are busy. So when this charter comes in, we are spread all over the world. It's social media, and we're
Yes.
like, yeah, this can't be happening.
Yes.
So you're telling me it's a fact? You're
Yes.
telling me this is actually being done? And
Yes.
we are all, obviously, I'm sure everyone on this call today from around the globe, they are rushing in to say, hey, someone send me a copy because I need to see this myself. And that's why we have you here,
Yes.
Philip. So, yes, we did
Yes.
share it.
Yes.
I'm just, the interpretation is what's,
Yes.
a little bit mind boggling here. So,
Yes.
but thanks so much, Andrea. But then tell me, so this is legislation, right? I think I had something I just want to understand how things travel or move through the legislation process and what options we as non-resident Ugandans have to, I believe we've got to be heard on this one. I mean, it affects our lives. We believe, we know we are Ugandan. Where is it? Where is this bill at? How is it going to travel through the process? How do we raise up on our hands and have input?
Can I just name the clauses that we were
Okay.
just covering a few minutes ago? So
Please.
it's at this stage, since it's a bill, it's called a clause.
Mm-hmm.
When it passes, it will become a section. When it becomes an act, it becomes a section.
I'm about to become a lawyer here.
We still have some way to go.
Okay.
Okay. So clause 25 is titled Reporting of Foreign Funding. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it says a supervised institution. Supervised institution is the banks and the payment agencies shall not pay out any money to an agent of a foreigner, that's your kith and kin as a Ugandan resident abroad, without the agent of the foreigner declaring the source of funds and submitting proof of the written authorization of the minister. Okay. Of the written authorization of the minister. And written authorization of the minister is required in 22.2, which says that let's say, agent of a foreigner who receives financial support, donations, loan, or assistance, or other assistance. So we're not even talking just about money. Mm-hmm. You send me a pair of running shoes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? Even that too?
It says all other assistance. Okay. Oh. It says funds, financial support, donation, loan, or other assistance. Okay. A foreigner without written approval in accordance with subsection 1 commits an offense. Okay. So I can't receive this money without this written approval from the minister. Now, in 20, okay, that's clause 20, 22 and 25. Now, let me deal with, okay, in 26, the agent of the foreigner, your kith and kin, has to submit returns to the minister, okay, detailing the amount of funds received, the purpose for which the funds were used, and in accordance with regulations prescribed by the minister. If the agent fails to submit returns, okay, there's a fine of 4 billion for a legal entity, and in the case of an individual, it's 2 billion, or imprisonment to a term of 20 years or both. 20 years or both. Now, let me say something since on prison terms, that you know the case of Agnes Nandutu. She took Mavati. Okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't meant for her. Her sentence is 4 years. You receive this money without authorization, your sentence could be up to 20 years. Yeah. Okay. Now, I'll get to the constitutional point on that a little later. To your question, what happens next? The bill has received a first reading in Parliament. The clerk of Parliament has called for comments to be sent before Friday, 24th Okay. This is a public
That's next
participation.
Friday. That's the coming
Next
Friday.
Friday. Yes, that's
So we have 6 days.
let's- now, starting from now. Yes, you have 6 days to send your written comments. Okay. Now,
Okay.
let's call this committee stage. The bill has been referred to the Committee of Defense and Internal Affairs and the
Yes.
Committee on Legal and Parliamentary Affairs. But
Mhm.
it is the Committee on Defense that is leading this consideration. By the rules of procedure of Parliament, they're required to deal with the bill within 45 days. Within 45 days. Okay. But it is not unknown for the committees to do this much faster. In the case of the Anti-Homosexuality Act, I think it was like between 3 and 6 days. The
3 and 6
UPDF
days.
amendment, yeah,
Mhm.
UPDF amendment was equally short. And unfortunately, when there was a challenge in the Constitutional Court to the Anti-Homosexuality Act, the court did not find an issue with the short period for public engagement.
Mm.
The court said that considering the number of memos that were received within that short period, they felt the public still participated. Okay. Now, let me put something else on the table. The term of this parliament expires this month. You know, we had an election in January.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We have MPs in waiting coming in. So the term of parliament will expire. Any bill which has been introduced in this parliament, any bill which has been introduced in this parliament,
Yeah.
which has not been dealt with by that date, will expire and will have to be reintroduced in the new parliament.
Okay. So
Should
that could go
I say
two
that
ways.
again?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's shocking. It could go two ways. Either it means if we don't do anything, this bill could pass as is by April 30th, or it could sunset, and then we have to fight again from May 1st.
Thank you. But it is most interesting that the government would introduce a bill
Mhm.
on the eve of parliament, unless it was confident or intended to pass it before sunset.
Hmm.
Okay. Unless it was
Okay.
confident that it intended to pass it before sunset. And if you look at the speed, on 15th, it gets its first reading. It wasn't even gazetted at that point. Gazetted means published in a government official record. Okay.
Yeah.
At that point, it was still a draft. It was released in the Uganda Gazette after it was read in Parliament. That happens. Then the requirement is within 24 hours to publish it, which they did. Fair enough.
Mhm.
Then on Friday, for the notice to be issued by the Clerk of Parliament calling for comments within 7 days, the speed at which the bill is moving, I think some people would say speed yiri yiri. Yeah, it is moving very, very fast. So
Okay.
I would expect that this bill will become law by the end of this month.
Okay. That's very sobering. And thanks so much for putting it that way. So, but what can we reasonably do? We are non-resident. We're in the diaspora. We're spread around like I said, some people in Norway, it's Japan, South Africa, Ethiopia. We can't obviously come down immediately by next Friday, right? So what are options here, Philip? And also, another question, just take you back a little bit, is you get the statistics of, let's say, 400,000 transactions a week. And if each has to get an approval, man, that sounds daunting. But to go back, what are options? Now, I must preface this by saying, Philip, we are not opposed to the idea of the need to protect sovereignty of Uganda. That makes sense. Even the United States, where I'm at, that makes sense. It happens. But what we are all, I'm sure the listeners are shocked to learn, is that we have somehow been looked into what feels like a large net with very small holes. We've been grabbed in there, and we want to find a way out of that large net. What are our remedies? How do we realistically get ourselves heard by the folks who matter and who can actually make a change and prevent us from, facing all these consequences that you very well explained.
Thank you, Tim. Let me first pick up on a point there that you made, that you understand the need to control our sovereignty, to protect our sovereignty. Yes.
Yeah.
And other countries have done it, okay, from different perspectives. Some countries require mere disclosure, not registration, just say that you are receiving foreign funding, okay? Some countries don't allow you to participate in certain fields if they know you're receiving foreign funding, and so on. The harsher regimes, Georgia, Hungary, Azerbaijan, Russia, okay, are where Uganda is deriving its inspiration from. Okay. Now, on what we can do, you are citizens. You're citizens. Okay.
Yes.
You have civic rights. You have civic rights. This is a window for you to send your memorandum and to make your voice heard before the parliamentary committee. Okay. To send in the written memorandum and make your voice heard. Once the committee receives the memoranda, it is required to consider them. Okay. It may then invite people to address it. Okay. They have this technology of Zoom calls. I don't see why they wouldn't invite you online without requiring you to fly down. Okay. You can also appoint an agent. It's not yet illegal. You can also appoint an agent to represent your views. Yes. The Uganda Law Society will be speaking. I've seen a memorandum from the Uganda Bankers Association, although that is, I think, addressed to the Attorney General. I've seen one from the National Culture Forum. I've seen another one from Citizens Coalition. Okay. So many
all
people
memoranda also. Okay, many people are writing. Okay, that's cool.
Many people are writing, and it is extremely important. It's extremely important that these memoranda are sent. This is our opportunity to participate in our governance. Okay. To participate in our governance. This is our opportunity, and we must. In Hungary, they went to the streets. Okay. We know in Uganda that is a hazardous option. We have a legal channel. We have a legal channel to do this. We must. And the importance of this, if you look at the recent judgment annulling the Computer Misuse Amendment Act or the Nserico Act, the court took great stock on what came through in the committee, that there was a minority report by Honorable Goretti Namuka, okay, based on what she had read in the memoranda, and it weighed heavily in the court's decision to annul that act. So this is an important process, and we must capitalize on it. Did I mention other offenses that you could be liable for? Not just you as non-residents, but all of us as citizens. Yes, there's an offense called economic sabotage. And Tim, you'll remember from Idi Amin's regime, not to give away your age, yes, that there was something called the Economic Crimes Tribunal, and there was a fight against Magendoism, and there were people who were charged and shot, firing squad, and there was a whole host of economic crimes. So economic sabotage is making a comment that weakens or damages the economy. Okay, it's just as simple as that. There is no requirement for saying you intend to do it. There is no requirement for saying that the comment made was knowingly false. Okay, there is no defense to say that it is true. It is true. Okay, I have been saying that the audit firms at this time of the year, all of them have events to comment on the tax bills, the new taxes which are going to be introduced in the budget. Very many audit firms release publications commenting on what government is trying to do and what they think about it. Okay, at the beginning of the year, there are banks, Stanbic and Absa, that have economic forecast events, and they tell us, they project and say the Uganda shilling is going like this, or it's going like this, or why. I think this year the big flavor was gold. the impact of gold in our economy. And there was a question as to where is the gold coming from, and the deputy governor had things to say. Now it can be deemed economic sabotage if your statement that the shilling is going north or south is deemed to weaken
the shilling
or damage the economy. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The language is so vague. Okay. If you say the shilling is going to depreciate and people scramble and take positions in dollars, if you say the shilling is going to strengthen and then people fear to export because their goods are now expensive, okay, it is just so vague. What is economic sabotage? Okay. Now, that's one thing that we will not be allowed to do. The other day on Capital Gang, we were debating the alternative budget presented by the National Unity Platform. That will be an illegal activity. Then the generation of government policy is now a monopoly of government. The generation of government policy is now a monopoly of government. You need permission to come up with a policy that government should adopt. You need permission from cabinet. You guys are out there, you're seeing many more things than we are. You may come up with an idea for what mass urban transport system, and you want to propose it. Okay, that's a government function. You're not allowed to do it without the permission of the cabinet. To criticize a government policy, and there are many that deserve criticism, and from criticism we get strength.
Correct.
We get improvements. Yes, UPE, okay, PDM, okay. All these policies are fair game to comment, okay, and they are within our rights as citizens under the Constitution, under Article 38, to participate in our governance. We are allowed by the Constitution to do this, to say these things, okay. It's constitutional. It's constitutional. We are allowed.
Yes. Just to keep on that point is, like you said, spread around the world. As a result of it, remember, we love our country. We love the country of our birth, right? We're spread around the world. You see a nice thing and you think, hey, why not in Kampala? And then you suggest, you go online, maybe you're in a chat group, you're debating with friends, maybe you come across as if you're criticizing something. And you're innocuous. So this, I'm hearing, it becomes suspect kind of activity, right? Is that true?
Not suspect, it's criminal activity.
Criminal.
It's criminal activity. And when you say you love Uganda, $2.5 billion, isn't it more than the foreign direct investment we are receiving? Okay.
It is.
This is money you're earning there. You could keep it there, but you're sending it home. You're sending it to us. You're sending it to your country. And we are grateful. We are grateful.
Yeah, let's get those numbers clear, Philip. 2.5 BBB with the billions, what non-resident Ugandans send home every year. That's what they did in 2025, right? And I've done. This was only surpassed by gold. It was at par with coffee, the Great Coffee, and was above tourism, foreign direct investment. And foreign direct investment was up because of the work they are doing for the oil sector. And coffee is also in the boom. They are having a boom year. So coffee was also up to match what the remittances are from all the members on this call. So that's really important that we, not so much to say, hey, we're important, you must treat us in some other favored status. No, but the argument is, I think the argument is we want to be just the same as every other Ugandan, one who is resident in Uganda. That's really the request here. So, no, I mean, you've given us all this work. Is there anything else you want to add? Because I just want to go to Q&A here. There are many questions bubbling up. And this, I can see some comments and some concerns. Do you want to add something there, Philip?
There's also a prohibition against promoting foreign policy or promoting foreign interests against Ugandan interests. I am trying to figure out how that impacts supporting Arsenal. Yes, you support Arsenal, you don't talk about Vipers and SC Villa, okay? You're supporting a foreign football league over Ugandan league, okay? Yeah. You're buying the jerseys and so on. We still have to do some analysis to see how it fits within this law, if at all. Yes, yes. Could I say something about the Constitutional Court?
Please do.
Okay.
Yes.
Because now we've said you must put in the written memoranda, okay? And we are saying the committee will consider it. The committee will make a report to Parliament. Parliament will consider what to adopt, what to reject, okay? If it does, it will amend the bill, and then it will take a vote on the bill, and the bill will pass as amended, okay? Now, should we then find that there are these objectionable clauses, for instance, requiring your agents to register, okay? The recourse is to go to the Constitutional Court, okay? The recourse is to go to the Constitutional Court and ask the court to test these provisions against the provisions in the Constitution. And here it would be Article 29. Let's start with Article 1 on sovereignty. Then we go to Article 29 on freedom of expression, okay, and of speech and of association. Then we go to 38, the right to participate in your governance, okay. These would be the articles that would be asking the Constitutional Court to weigh this act against and make a determination. I am confident that the Constitutional Court has the courage and judicial independence to annul legislation. We just saw it a few weeks ago with the Ensereko Act, right? Where they annulled the offense of criminal defamation.
Yeah.
And so I'm confident that they can do that. They have the sufficient independence to do it. But the trouble is that the Constitutional Court is like a landlord. It works in advance. Rent is payable in advance, okay? Not
Okay.
mabega. Momaso si mabega. What do I mean by this? Yes. Momaso si mabega. Okay? Because when the court declares a law as unconstitutional, it is from that date going forward. Yes.
So if you've been if you've been caught in that net, too bad.
Too bad. Which we are still examining. It's unfortunate because the people who were convicted by the court martial, who are serving sentences, the TikTokers who were convicted under Nsereko's Act are serving sentences. And the court is saying, no, we are now focusing on people who had not yet been convicted, not been charged, and so on, who were appealing, you know. Now, the sadness is that people are in jail for offenses which never should have been offenses, for somebody's wrong interpretation of the law. Okay, I think I'm happy to see what you have, questions you have for me. I'm happy to answer them.
All right. So, no, thank you so much for that. Like I said, again, to remind all the attendees on this webinar, please submit your questions through the Q&A portal. It's on this same webinar, and we shall go through and get them. They are coming in, and I apologize. I've got to look at my phone here, technology, see what the questions have. There's another which you've answered already, which is like, hey, what are the options, if the bill is passed into law, and how to help address it. And, you've explained that really succinctly, whereby it's better for us to prevent. Prevention is better than it becoming into law, and then we are running back, trying to get court action because we're already caught into that. We've also understood the need for us to put together some written memoranda, right, and submit it before next Friday. Now, I'll let you understand that the Uganda Global Forum, under it, has organized a leadership council, which has 35 leaders from across the globe, right, who are on this. Many of them are on this call right now. They have drafted some memoranda of sorts. They are sharing it out, they are socializing it, they are getting feedback, getting buy-in, altering it accordingly. And the idea being that this is a memorandum that we will then submit to the relevant authorities who you have just explained right now. The Zoom request, which you've suggested, is a brilliant idea. We shall try to reach out to the relevant authorities. And this I tell my colleagues out there who are attending this webinar, non-resident Ugandans like me, hey, reach out to your leaders, reach out to the Uganda Global Forum, or whatever communities you have. Let's organize the Basoga, there's this Basoga and Sete, this is time for that, right? Let's get together and address this thing for what it is. We don't have to be political about it. We just have to look after Uganda's interests and our interests as citizens and those of our families, right? Then I also had, Philip, your recommendation for us, to consider appointing an agent who can actually get or his way into cabinet, right?
Parliament.
Into parliament, sorry,
Parliament.
into
Yes.
parliament. So one question here already: what happens if it is me sending my money from my account abroad to my own account in Uganda? Where do I fall?
That's an excellent question. That's an excellent question. And I think we had considered it in the context of saying what would be the loopholes available under the law. I don't think that we quite have an answer to it. Yes, I don't think we quite have an answer to it yet. But that's a very good point.
Okay, that's really the same question again from some of us have accounts abroad in Uganda. What happens if I'm merely transferring money from my UK account to my Ugandan one? But what about the reverse situation where some people have investments in Uganda, right? And they have a return on investment of some sort, and they want to use the money abroad, like let's say they keep college fees expensive. What's happening there?
We've had an open capital account in Uganda. Foreign investors have been able to bring money freely and remit it freely. You've enjoyed the same privileges for sure. There's nothing to restrict remittance abroad from Uganda outside. As far as we can read this bill, there is no restriction on sending money abroad. Like I said, what seems to be driving the bill is what happens to money from outside coming in. Who is sending it and what is it being used for? Incidentally, I need to point out that there are other laws which are already on our statute books, which would have controlled this, okay? And it's therefore curious why at all we need another law, okay? For instance, anti-money laundering. Yes, anti-money laundering would require a bank that receives suspicious monies to ask what this money is for, to freeze it, to inform the Financial Intelligence Authority. There is another law dealing with political organizations which are required to declare their sources of income and to be subject to an audit. So there is already financial transparency in monies received for political process. Yes, this bill goes much wider than that, okay? For instance, trying to gag our critique of government programs, trying to prevent our generation of policy alternatives for government. So yes, but at the end of the day, this is a bill which I think is unnecessary.
Okay. I agree. And here, for what you say, I really have to agree. Here's another question. Does it mean if I'm a person working in the diaspora and my family in Uganda is in Uganda, that this is what is really pertinent. Every time I send up, every time, because you don't send once, right? You keep sending it several times over maybe a month or, is it every time that I should seek approval from government? Or do I just say, hey, once you're registered, life is good, then everything after that, everything I said into perpetuity is covered?
Yes. Now let's try and apply the bill. It passes into law. Now let's try and walk through and say, I'm complying. Okay.
Yes.
So you're out there and you need to send the money to your mother who is in Uganda. She's required to register. She makes an application to the Minister of Internal Affairs. And she says, I am an agent of a foreigner for these reasons. And she gets whatever she gets. And they give it to her. Okay. And she then has it. Then you send money. And here we're going to deal with an amount under 400 million shillings. Okay. You send $100, you send $10,000 and so on under the 400 million limit. Okay. She already has the authorization. When the bank says, hey, you got money from a foreigner, okay, can you show us that you have this authorization? She will have it. I am assuming, yes, it lasts for 2 years and it's renewable.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Wow.
So that should be okay. That should be
Okay.
okay.
Another
Yes.
question here. This is like, if this happens, can we serve the Ugandan government, I guess, for notice or something, for redefining dual citizens, because some of us are dual citizens, as foreigners? I mean, can we challenge this bill in court? Imagine it has gone forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because by introducing this distinction between citizens, okay, on the basis of residence, it's discriminatory. It's discriminatory. Okay, we are not then equal before the law.
No,
I,
we're
as
not.
a Ugandan in Uganda, have more advantage than you. Okay,
Yes.
we are both earning income. You from abroad, me from here. But I can remit my income freely to my dependents as I wish. You have a restriction based on residence.
Correct.
Okay, that discrimination is not justifiable. It's not
All right.
justifiable in a free and
Okay.
democratic society. Yes,
Right.
so it
Then
can be challenged.
another question here: are all foreign-funded NGOs all supposed to approach the minister for a formal letter, certificate, or whatever, before receiving any funding for rural and peri-urban projects? Are NGOs going to stand in Parliament, seek some redress for these PHS constitutional breaches? So again, the question is basically on NGOs, as the questioner is worried about, hey, are we saying that all of these guys need also to register and get some letter before funding? Literally related to the question you answered earlier. For the work that they do, they are funding rural and peri-urban projects.
Yes. Yes. Let's straight away, the answer is yes, they have to register. But I want to extend the argument beyond NGOs, because it's the definition of agent of foreigner is not restricted to charitable work. Okay, it's not restricted to charitable work. It's on the basis of this wide definition that it will get your relatives to whom you send the money. Okay, you wish to send money to. Okay, agent of a foreigner, this is the definition in clause 1, the first definition. Agent of a foreigner means a person who acts as an agent, okay, employee, servant, etc., okay, or any person who acts in any other capacity at the order, request, or under the direction or control of a foreigner, okay, or a person whose activities are directly or indirectly supervised, directed, controlled, financed, or subsidized by a foreigner. So it stretches from the fundi on your site, who you send, you as a foreigner, send money to and say, please build my house like this.
Yep.
Okay. It stretches to the NGO, the Ugandan based NGO, which is has a foreign parent. Okay. It stretches to KFC outlets who are told how to cook their chicken for Ugandans and who are told not to put in malewa or wombo. Okay. But it stretches to subsidiaries, bank subsidiaries. Do you know how many international banks we have in Uganda who are subject to the direction, control, or are financed or subsidized by a foreigner? How about the insurance companies? How about the hotel chains? Okay. How about the tour companies? Okay. Where does it, hospitals? Okay. Where does it end? Mining companies. Okay. Any subsidiary of foreign capital is caught by this definition.
All right. There are many questions here. Some are related to stuff that you've answered. So, but one unique one goes here. The question everyone's trying to understand: how really does this bill benefit Ugandans? Because there is the fact that, hey, I'm trying to put in the, to paraphrase the question as asked, we remit for this money. It obviously has some economic impact. If these restrictions come in place, will they not affect Uganda's economy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any disturbance to capital inflows will be disruptive. Absolutely. And there's a paper by Citizens Coalition. I believe I've shared it with you.
Yes, you did.
On the, yes, if you could please share it with your members. It's on economic impact of this bill, addressing the economic impact across different sectors. I think if I spoke economics as a lawyer, I would not be believed. Even when lawyers talk about legal fees, we are not believed. So I will leave the numbers game. I will leave
Okay.
the numbers game. But yes, the impact would be severe. Okay.
Mhm.
Again, sticking to legal terms, for instance, a bank that needed to be recapitalized
Mhm.
because Bank of Uganda says you're undercapitalized, you made a loss, you need to put in $200,000. Okay. And the bank parent says, yes, I'll send the $200,000. But you, local bank, go and ask the Minister of Internal Affairs if you can receive this money. We don't know how long this will take. We don't know if
Yeah,
the
there's that
minister will
question
say
too.
yes. Yes. What happens to the depositors in that bank? Okay. Will the central bank allow you to stay open while you wait for ministerial approval? Okay. I don't know what the regulators are doing. The Industry Capital Markets Authority, the Insurance Regulatory Authority, the Bank of Uganda. I don't know what they are doing in relation to this law. Okay. I have not seen any comments from them. Maybe it's government to government. I don't know. But I really think that I would want to know what they think the impact of this law will be in their sectors.
Wow. Another question. Thanks for that. If a relative in Uganda is arrested due to receiving funds from a diaspora, hey, what is the extent of liability for the sender residing abroad?
Yes. Thank you. I do not see liability for the sender. I do not see liability for the sender. What I see is offenses put on the bank or the, and I keep saying payment service. In the law, the definition is supervised institution. It's a person licensed under an act of parliament to facilitate cross-border transfer of money. So it includes the telcos, it includes the banks and other, is it remit and send wave and all those things?
Yes, send wave, remit,
So,
send wave, all those, yes.
yes, the offenses are created for people like that who release money to an agent of a foreigner without the authorization, and to somebody acting as an agent of a foreigner without authorization. That is where the offenses are created for.
Wow. Okay. So then also, here is a question just, I guess, to make us understand this at a personal level. How will my 99-year-old and sick grandmother who needs money for medical purposes go to register before she can see her doctor? I mean, I'm going to send her money. She's sick, 99 years old. She's got to go to the minister. How does that really happen, Sheila? Not that you can answer it, but
No, I can suggest
Yeah.
a practical alternative. Send it
Mhm.
to your grandson. Send it to your grandson who has the energy to jump up and down and run and go and see the minister. Don't be troubling your grandmother. Because
Mm.
if it is received, let's say it's, and let me introduce law firms into this equation.
Mm.
Law firms do work for people in outside countries, for companies in outside countries, okay? For foreigners properly so-called, okay? And we are paid by those foreigners, okay? We are paid by those foreigners. So we too, as law firms, will have to register as agents for foreigners. When I represent a foreign company in negotiations with government, I am an agent for a foreigner. So we too will have to register. Okay. So that's talking about law firms. I'm introducing it to say again how wide and how deep this law goes. Now, in the context of a 99-year-old grandmother, you get another agent. Don't be troubling your grandmother.
Okay, no, we will
Now,
not.
because yes, once the money is received in Uganda by, let's say, an authorized agent of a foreigner, you dispose of it. So your nephew gets the money, he says, my uncle sent it, and he declares the source and purpose. Go and spend it on grandma.
Okay.
Grandma does not have to be the one to catch it.
Correct. And I can see the comments in here because, again, I'm not Philip, I'll tell you this. Non-resident Ugandans are like, yeah, right. Send the money to who? How do I know it will get? That's our life here. That's our life. I'll be honest. And everyone who's attending here should put up their, show me a thumbs up, because that's the attitude we have, is how will this really get to grandma? So, but thanks so much for this. You've gone through all this. You've explained it beautifully. We understand the criticality of it. And I just want to make sure that we know what are the next steps for us to go ahead and put a pause on this thing, or at least get it amended and cleaned up to represent us, right, to exempt us from this thing. We got your recommendation, written memoranda, press the Zoom, appoint an agent. But if you had to break this down, as we wrap up this call, Philip, if you had to break down this, what would you tell us to do today, immediately, to save ourselves and our families, really, we struggle. We wake up early in the morning for our kids, our families, our relatives, our sick relatives in Uganda, to help. So what can we realistically do?
Okay. You mentioned the word exemption, to get an exemption. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody who is written so far is asking for an exemption.
Okay.
The banks are saying exempt us. The musicians who recently passed a copyright amendment law allowing them to receive revenues from outside countries through streaming platforms are saying, hey, yes, we're just, how do you say? The goodies were just beginning to arrive. Now you're telling us that we'll be agents of foreigners. They're saying no. They're saying also exempt us. Now you guys, $2.5 billion industry, are saying exempt us. Okay. It's not a sustainable approach. The thing is to explain to government that your issue is about utilization of funds for an improper purpose. Your issue is about utilization of funds for an improper purpose. That is what you should be catching. Okay, that is what you should be catching. Okay, or funds which are from a criminal source or something of the sort. So if I am found in Uganda, let's say buying fuel for borders to go on riot, that the criminal liability should attach to me at that point. Okay.
Okay.
It should attach to me at that point. It shouldn't be, like I said, the net should be narrowed so that they focus on what is the interest to control this money being used for the wrong influence. That is the point. Not to say, catch all the money that's entering the country, which is where we are now.
Okay.
So next steps, let's put in those memoranda. Let's put in those memoranda. Quickly, furiously, fast. Let's talk to our MPs. Let's talk to the committee chairs, because these are not strangers. These are brothers, sisters, uncles. We know these people. They come from us. They're Ugandans. Okay, let's talk to them and tell them, have you thought about this? Can we help you fashion a different alternative, a different regime? Okay, because their good money is coming in the country for legitimate purposes, which the country needs, which the citizens need. Let's not stop that from happening.
Okay, so we shall go down the path. And again here, my fellow Ugandans, non-resident Ugandans, those in the diaspora, let's get on with it. Like I said, let's organize, let's regroup, let's mobilize. We know our leaders. Maybe if we're living in isolation somewhere, which happens, there are 2 or 3 or 4 of us, or just one in some country, because we are spread around the globe, let's make sure we get heard. The Uganda Global Forum, like I said, is putting together a memorandum. Thanks so much for your input, Philip, and advice. I think we shall have to recraft this thing to make it more targeted, more specific, so that it actually addresses some of the things. I'm seeing some of your comments online. Some of my colleagues, fellow Ugandans abroad, they are wondering, and a very good wonder here is, hey, this approval process, the way things work, and again, Ugandans living abroad know this. How do I get that approval without kitu kidogo? You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is how Ugandans abroad are thinking, because that's what we experience, right? That's what happens. When we come home, we see things. Not that we are, saying Uganda must somehow become this in 2 minutes, but this is we want to make our lives as possible, possible, so that our relatives enjoy our spend. So Also, there's another question by the way, which they asked, and maybe that, will there be a fee paid to request this receipt, this registration? Like, does it is there a fee? You know,
Yes.
again, we are worried people, but we've heard you, Philip. Thank you so much. And to everyone else who was joining this call, thank you so much. Yes, I hear you. I see some of your comments. The Uganda Global Forum will, when it's appropriate, organize other webinars around other topics that are pertinent to us. Right now, we are focused, however, on dealing with this one issue. You had the deadline is next Friday. We'll definitely make sure that there is something before the relevant committees. We thank you, Philip. My fellow Ugandans abroad, we couldn't pay Philip to represent us. So I just thank him for taking the time out of his busy schedule. His Friday, Saturday, at 5 p.m., he's in the city where we party after party or party after party. So thank you so much. Let's bring this to a close. It was great having you all. We'll catch up. Send in your comments to the Uganda Global Forum. Thank you, Philip. Thank you all.